Hi, it's Darryl here, answering any questions you've got on anything to do with carbon reduction, net zero, SECR compliance, ESOS compliance, science-based targets, etc., etc. Anything in that kind of carbon reduction sector. I had a piece of work put on my desk probably 2 months ago now that we're just completing, and I thought it was kind of interesting. I thought I'd just take you through some of the challenges involved with implementing net zero in a very large company. So the client involved is extremely large. They're one of the top 100 largest companies in the world. And there's a team of 3 people within the company that have been tasked with coming up with a plan on how they approach a strategy to put in place net zero throughout their organisation. And the outputs they're looking for are A, reduction in carbon footprint, and B, recognition that they're doing the right thing and that they're achieving results. And the question they ask me is how do they go about it? And the challenges they face are extremely large. They've got many tens of thousands of staff across many countries. And how do you get a single consistent message out to all of those territories so that it actually makes a difference and makes an impact? So that was the sort of question. Way we approached it is that we split all projects with carbon into different stages, really. So let's draw a typical project from start to end. The first is you plan. You get the methodology in place, and you think about what things you need to address, what things can be addressed a lot later because they're not as significant, who's going to be involved, when are things going to get done, etc. Once you've done your planning, you can then crack on with your data collection, footprint calculation, but maybe I'm going to put a 1 here, because your footprint calculation, when you first do it, most people don't choose all 15 from get-go, they cut it down, and so they do a subset of the carbon emissions. And, excuse me, once you've got the carbon emissions for a basic subset, you then look at pushing them out. So for example, in the last part of the project, and this is probably an ongoing thing, you've got the footprint calculation ongoing. So putting more and more of the scope 3 factors into your carbon footprint, okay? Once you've got the footprint calculation, number 1, you can start working to do reduction projects and actually lowering down your carbon use. So as you might imagine, there's a degree of iteration down the end of that. So that's basically how most net zero projects go. There's no surprises there, and the more advanced viewer might already know something like that. That's fine, it's not a problem. How do you then roll that out into I think they're in 27 countries. They're really very large indeed. Well, the way to approach it is, if that's time there, is to split it up by territory. Okay, and then what we do is we slot in this kind of framework, stagger it over time, and we stagger it over territory. So let's say, for example, if I shorten this to plan, data, FP1, FP2, knowing that the reduction's in there as well, so I won't write that in. What we might do is to say, look, okay, territory 1 is going to be, for example, Central Europe, where, because they've got finite resources, I mean, they're a big company, but they haven't got infinite resources. They've got enough people to make it work, but the teams are limited. What we're going to be doing here is we're going to be running this here. So plan, data, FP1, FP2. Okay? At the same time, in, for example, South America, that they start a little bit later, and that could be 1 month, 2 months, it could be a week, whatever works resource-wise, is the same team will then run through the same process, plan, data, 1, 2, in South America. When they're ready, let's talk about North America, and down here, same deal, little bit more of a delay, and here we run the same plan, data, 1, 2. There. This has the advantage of not overloading the team. You know, there's only a certain number of people with a certain number of hours in the day, and software like, we use PLATO as our software, so I'm biased, but we use PLATO to run all of these projects. But PLATO will cope, but who's going to manage the process? Who's going to do all the education pieces? Who's going to do all the training? Who's going to do the communication pieces? Who's going to localize it to local, etc., etc., etc. So you've got all these issues here. And that is broadly how we would approach large multi-territory sort of projects, is split it up into the project stages, split it up over time and stagger it so that you're territory by territory, bringing them all in. When you're up to speed, imagine you've got a really sort of efficient mechanism for getting local staff trained to the standards that you're working to. You can obviously do things at the same time if you want to. I mean, there's no problem at all. So say, for example, that might be the Baltics there or something like that. Start them at the same time. That's not a problem. But just be careful on resources. In my experience, even large companies, finite, and the problems involved with taking a message out that people aren't used to. They're generally receptive. People want to do this. But they're not used to what's involved. They're certainly not used to the data requirements for large projects. And just be careful you don't overload the team. So there you go. That's how we'd approach it. Stagger it, phase it. Nice standardization in each of the boxes so you know exactly what's going on when. And how do you eat a 1 kilogram cookie? You do it a bite at a time. And that's what we're doing here, splitting it up so that each individual stage is manageable. There you go. I hope that was useful. I certainly found that an interesting project. They're a lovely group of people to work with as well. But I hope that was useful. If you've got any more questions, feel free to put them in the comments below, ping them through to the team, put them on the chat, however you want to do it. And we'll do our best to answer any questions for you. If you found it useful, hit the subscribe button. If you want to hear about new videos, hit the alert button. And we do about 1 of these a day. I'll be back with you tomorrow. All right, cheerio.